So welcome to the Fantasy Kickabout's first official podcast. To give you an insight into the idea of the podcast, it's basically a bunch of football fans who are brought together via the Fantasy Premier League game and a WhatsApp group. We'll be discussing, of course, our debatable fantasy football managerial decisions, the latest at our clubs and other clubs, selecting X11s, quizzes and much more. So on the opening weekend, please welcome to the podcast David O'Hara, aka O'Hara, a Liverpool fan who finished fourth in his debut season of the Fantasy Kickabout League. Next up, we have David Dent, aka David, a United fan making his debut in the league and who captained Son when hitting 4 goals past Southampton back in Gameweek 2. But don't ask him what his current league position is. And our third guest on the first podcast is Donnacha McCormack, a Scouser without the accent and a Manager of the Month winner last season. Yes, our league is better than yours with monthly prizes. And finally, myself, Gary Quinn, the organiser of the Fantasy League for the gang and whom never seems to win anything at the game, like can't even get my captain right. So you're all very welcome to the first episode of the Fantasy Kickabout podcast, a fan's perspective of the beautiful game. So guys, welcome to the Fantasy Kickabout, lads. And I guess there's probably only one place to start this week. Solid win for Man United, thanks to this man behind me over my shoulder here. And obviously the Liverpool's first defeat in almost 4 years. Donnacha, do you want to let us know how you're feeling?
We got trouble. I'm wearing an old school Liverpool t-shirt or jersey to represent the times when we were rubbish, and it seems those times have reappeared. Where I'm not a fan who loses the run of himself over a bad result or even a bad performance. Fans that tend to be fickle in the 21st century, and I try and avoid that. But we're in big trouble. There's no confidence through the front three, and I never thought I'd say that in their careers. At Anfield, we're in seriously poor run of form. I think we're 16th in the form table. Cannot buy a goal. We keep running into keepers having great games, but that's nothing new at Anfield. Yeah, like Burnley was just one of those. The longer the game went on, the more it felt like we're going to concede something here. We're going to concede something stupid, and it turned out it was. Obviously with the late penalty, and whereas last season, even if that late penalty went in, I would have believed that we'd at least get a draw out of it. As soon as the goal goes in 82 minutes, you know the game's over. So yeah, big trouble. Like title race talk for Liverpool fans right now is that's wishful thinking. Right now we've got to sort of get back some momentum and get back in the top 4 race.
Yeah. Do you find that bizarre, O'Hara, that so many Liverpool fans and just fans around the world, like, that's Liverpool gone? I remember even hearing on News Talk a lot of lads were saying that's Liverpool gone since the drop points, obviously against United or drew with United. Do you think they're out of the title race? As a United fan, I personally don't think so, because we're only at the halfway stage.
Yeah, I don't think so either. Yeah, that's entirely my thinking behind it as well. Like, our game last night was our 19th, so like that's exactly halfway, and we're only 6 points off the top. Like, literally, in the immediate aftermath of the match last night, like, I could barely speak. Do you know what I mean? Like, it was horrendous to watch. Like, so many of them, they just looked like they forgot how to play. Like, it was like, I was talking to someone, it was like in Space Jam, where like all of them have their powers taken from the aliens. Like, it's like they just have no idea how to play football anymore. Which, it's so, like, I think Trent put in about 18 or 20 crosses and none of them got to a Liverpool player. So it is very worrying at the moment. But as I said, it's only 6 points and literally another entire half of the season to go. So it's worrying at the moment, but I think once we get back into form, literally once we score a goal, and then the momentum starts building again, like City, I think City have won about 6 in a row now. Once we get it back into form, we could easily go 6, 7, 8 in a row and be back up in the reckoning again. So it was really tough to watch now the last couple of games. But no, I wouldn't rule us out of winning the title again.
Dave, would you rule Liverpool out of the title race?
No, I wouldn't rule them out. You know, listen, this season is going to be far tougher for everybody. You know, Liverpool aren't. We were saying before we recorded, you know, the level that they were operating at, it's just not human. It's not sustainable. You can't do that for in the long term. You know, something has to give, and you know they got in a couple of injuries, and they've lost a bit of momentum. I'd like to see them not out with the title race, but just stay hovering where they are at the moment. You know, within a couple of points. You know, I wouldn't like them to see them go out of the race completely, because that's kind of been the buzz of it as a United fan, is that this time last year we were 30 points behind Liverpool, and now we're 6 point clear, and you know, but there's a race on, you know, rather than, you know, it being a dead rubber. Even if it is about pride, and even if it is about rivalry and everything else, you know, this time last year it was a dead rubber. It was about wanting to be the first team to beat Liverpool, and you know, it's nice for it to be different a year on, but you know, all they need is to get a couple of goals and breathe a little bit of confidence back into the side, and you better believe they'll be back at it. But like, City are the team to watch. Like, their form is just super, and like, if you're comparing the two, like Liverpool to City now, they're like chalk and cheese. So I think City are hitting their stride just at the right time.
Yeah. I know Gary Neville mentioned the other day about when he was playing in Man United teams, they could never kind of get over the line in the fourth season. Would the Liverpool guys, would you kind of look along those lines and say Liverpool are quite similar in the sense that they've performed at such a high level, as Dave said, for the last 3-4 years, that they've kind of hit a wall at this stage and almost need to regroup, refresh, and go again, whether that's new signings. Obviously, it's ridiculous to even mention Klopp and being sacked in the same sentence, but you do have fans that are a bit probably deluded out there that are suggesting things like that.
Yeah, I think people talking about Klopp being sacked are morons. Like, that's ridiculous. Like, yes, it's worrying to watch it at the moment, but it's a run of 5 games where, like, you know, we've been to 2 Champions League finals in the last 3 years. We got 97 points and then won the league last year with 99 points. Like, it's insane to be thinking that Klopp now, after 5 games of poor results, isn't the man for the job. I saw during the week, Carragher was saying something about that. Like, it's like, in terms of a front three, like, this is our front three's 4th season in a row together, where if you think of any of the kind of famous front threes over the years, like, say, you know, Messi, Suarez, and Neymar, or players like that, or even going back to the likes of like Tevez, Ronaldo, and Rooney, like, those trios were only together for 2 or 3 seasons. So yeah, like you said, it could be that they're just going a bit stale. It's mad to say, because they're just such phenomenal players, but like, it's they look a bit devoid of ideas the last little while, which is such a pity then, because Jota was perfect to be then kind of fitting into it. And if one of them was a bit off form, like when people were questioning whether he should be starting over Firmino, that was purely just because Firmino was looking a little bit stale, but Jota came in like this breath of fresh air. So like, yeah, like with Jota being out injured these last couple of weeks, that's hurt us massively, because I think he would have made a massive difference.
Yeah,
I'm being a little lazy here, lads. What's the situation with Jota?
He's apparently back. When he got injured, which I think was early December, it was like early February. Klopp was asked during the week what the story is with him, and apparently it's still a couple of weeks off. So it won't be like, say, next week, February. It'll be a few weeks into February, apparently.
Right.
He's obviously a huge loss, and we were chatting obviously before in the group saying if he had still been playing, but if he wasn't injured at the moment, he would have been potentially one of the signings of the season, if not the signing of the season. Do you think, Donnacha, do you think Liverpool will jump into the market maybe to
No, we can't.
a defender or a striker or?
It's totally emphatic from what you hear from Klopp even today in the press conference. You know, he's gone on the defensive. I don't make the decisions. We can talk about players, we can talk about money, but I don't make decisions. I don't run the business. So I wouldn't necessarily represent that as some sort of shot that Klopp has taken at FSG. I think it's just the reality of the situation. I don't expect any new faces. I expect there potentially to be an outgoing. Maybe Divock Origi might go to Leipzig, or there's a few clubs involved. But I think Liverpool's situation now, it's clear that this is the most difficult time that Klopp has had, certainly in his Liverpool tenure. Not as bad as the last days in Dortmund. Like, the thing that really worries me is I really hope it's not a case of history repeating itself, and it is only 5 games, but Dortmund suffered an emotional hangover from Klopp. Is an emotional manager, arguably the most emotionally driven manager in the league in terms of players are willing to just go that extra mile for him. And for any kind of sport or any kind of level of emotional intensity, that battery does drain after a while. Like, these guys have been to Kiev and, had the Salah injury and overcame the adversity, and then Bale's world. They go again, they get 97 points, they don't win the league. They have that magical night in Barcelona. And I think just everything, just that pitch married with the fact that now you're the league champions and everybody wants you. It's United had this for a generation. Every team was worth 5% more against United than anyone else because of wanting to beat them. And it's a serious problem. Like, we talk about Jota. It's incredible to think that Jota is so pivotal to us now. It's just, he's clinical. He doesn't miss chances. He is an absolute dead eye, and I didn't see it coming. And I agree, if he hadn't got injured, like, you've got to call it what it is. Klopp is still the best manager in the world, but that night in Copenhagen, he made a huge error of judgment. Most, like 99 times out of 100, Jota plays that game and he doesn't get injured, but there was just no need. There was nothing to gain from that game whatsoever. And we find ourselves in a really tough spot now.
Yeah. Obviously, as a United fan, I think Dave will agree, and you mentioned earlier, it would be nice to see Liverpool, for us, kind of hovering where they are. But, like, without a doubt, they're going to bounce back. That's what all good teams do. They bounce back. And I know there was a bit of banter and a bit of slagging going on in the WhatsApp group last night, but I think deep down everyone knows that Liverpool will bounce back.
Yeah, and I think that too. I don't want to sound downcast or being alarmist or catastrophizing at all. Like, we're still going to make the top 4. I'm so confident of that. But and I still think there is a title race to be run with this team. But it's got to change. Like Sunday now becomes enormous. Not for what it is, not for the FA Cup, but just to go in against a really good side and go and beat them. Sundays now you will get onto it, but now you play your best 11 on Sunday, in my opinion. If I'm Klopp, front 3 are starting. It's a shame for Minamino that he may not start as a result of this, but we have to win.
Yeah, and before we get on to, obviously, the Liverpool United game on Sunday, take our minds back to Craven Cottage earlier on in the week. Pogba came up with the goods. Davey, in the field of keep Pogba, get rid of him in the summer.
Do you know what? It's such a... The topic of Pogba is just a fucking head wreck. Like, the thing is, this is all I wanted from Pogba for 4 years. All I wanted was for him to apply himself. All I wanted was for him to work hard. And he's done that since probably the middle of December. And, last night was, Tuesday at Craven Cottage was Tuesday, Wednesday, whatever night. At Craven Cottage, like, it was another tough game, another game where Bruno shouldn't have been playing, but he was there and he was knackered still. And he's Pogba's stepping up and doing what we're missing from Bruno at the moment. Listen, if you got this from him and you knew you were going to get this from him every week, or at least knowing that he was applying himself 100% every week, you'd keep him. Of course you would. I don't know for sure, is he playing for a move? Really, at the moment, I don't care. But is he playing for a move, or is Raiola gonna come out and say something in March or April and start feeding fuel to the fire, and it becomes a fucking circus again? Like, if he keeps going the way he's going, I'm happy to keep him. But you never know. But what a finish! What a fucking finish! He was. It just came out of nowhere, and he played well all night. So yeah.
Did you see the footage taken from the stand on a mobile?
Oh,
So for
really?
whatever reason in Craven Cottage, they just didn't have a TV camera behind them. But it wasn't fan footage, obviously. It was someone in one of the subs or whatever. But just the ball moves a good 4 or 5 feet, and just straight, like, Areola has no chance. Like, Pogba is world class. Like, the talent is, like, he is a generational talent. Albeit wrapped up in so much nonsense and controversy, and not even the fun kind of controversy, like controversial, like he's always got a new haircut, or he's peddling some new brand, not even like a renegade,
or a Pogba emoji, like,
yeah, like he's not even a fun kind of loose cannon, you know what I mean? Like, not like a Nick Kyrgios type of character, who's like got this fatal flaw. His fatal flaw is that he's like obsessed with his own brand, and it's just indicative of the generation.
It's exhausting, and like, I even remember I was living in Canada at the time, and I was watching. I got up at stupid o'clock or whatever to watch the Manchester derby, and he dyed his hair blue, and I was like, oh my Jesus, I want to strangle the prick. It's just that sort of stuff. Like, it's so, like read the room, or like read the situation. Like, there just seems to be no common sense there, like, at all. So I don't know. Like, again, like everything else with Manchester United at the moment, I'm just enjoying it for what it is.
Absolutely.
And,
Absolutely.
we'll go from there.
I'm pretty much in the same boat. I'm enjoying the goals. I'm enjoying the victories, enjoying the performances. Only worry is with Pogba that I'm going to say 5-6 games maybe that he's put in a pretty good shift. You wonder if that's going to change over the next couple of weeks. Is he going to even get better? As Dunn said, like, he has all the world-class ability and talents that you need, but it's when he applies himself, like I said, going out and dyeing his hair blue before the Manchester derby, brands, emojis, like, it seems like it all comes first. And I think he mentioned something along the lines of he likes playing and winning teams, and obviously United are doing quite well. They're winning a lot of games, but again, is that, like, the only team in my head, I would say number one that can afford him is Paris, and number two, in a normal season, Paris Saint-Germain just win all their games because it's a bit of a Mickey Mouse league over there. So that seems like it's the only kind of suit for Pogba. I don't know.
Well, PSG could go from
Juventus will do everything.
Real Madrid could go from, Juventus could afford them. Like, those three probably could, but, like, you're right. The acid test is going to be when United lose their next game. Is he going to sulk? Is he going to just plod around the place like he used to? Is he just going to like, the thing that fans love about Bruno is that regardless of win, lose or draw, that he's going to run his boots into the ground, and that he's not going to come off the pitch having not given everything. Whereas with Pogba, that's definitely not the case. The one thing I did want to actually say about Pogba, and somebody has mentioned it on a forum that I'm on, and it's it's actually a pretty fair point. He's playing much quicker now. He's choosing his passes much quicker. He's not like hanging on to the ball and waiting to be out muscled or pushed off or always going for a Hollywood pass. It's kind of like at the moment, whenever he gets it, he already knows where he's going to put it, and he already knows where it's going to go. And it's just much simpler football, and it suits him so much better.
Yeah. And I know you were mentioned there just about Fernandes and the possibility of not starting him against Fulham during the week. And I know there was a lot of debate around it. Personally, for me, I was play your best team. This is a very, very important game. Not saying that the FA Cup isn't important, but potentially I was looking at the Liverpool game and the Sheffield United game the following Wednesday as games where players could be rested. So I was all for kind of getting Fernandes in there and playing him from the start. And I know he didn't have his best game, but he's still influential no matter how he gets on. He in a way, and this is not me comparing him with Alexis Sanchez, but I remember Sanchez at Arsenal he constantly gave the ball away, but his numbers were so good in terms of his assists, his goals, his chances created, and then obviously when he went to United, that all completely changed.
All of those things stopped. Yeah.
Everything. But Bruno's kind of the same in a sense. He does give the ball away a lot.
He does, yeah. But I mean, I think most fans are understandable that he tries everything. Like, he is trying to create, and that just means you're going to give the ball away. You're going to misjudge the pass, or it's going to get cut out or whatever.
As someone who looks on with disgust at United, from my own biases as being a Liverpool fan, he's very good to watch because he has no interest in continuity. He wants to make an impact. Every time he gets the ball, he'll blast something into Rowe's head. A pass won't come off, but then he'll be like, give me the ball, let me try it again. And over 90 minutes, that is just priceless. Like, he's incredibly brave on the ball. Now, I suppose it's easy to be brave when you're racking up the numbers that he is from number 10 at the minute. But he's.
But isn't that why he's racking up the numbers? Because
exactly
the more you pump it in, the more something's going to come off. You could have Scott McTominay passing stats of sideways passes and you could be 80, 90 plus %. But if you're not actually creating anything and you're just retaining possession, then he wouldn't be what he is.
Just before we get off the topic of that game at Craven Cottage, I think we have to just call out the job that Scott Parker has done the last 8-10 games. The best thing Scott Parker did all season wasn't even him. It was the inadvertent dry your eyes mate mashup from the streets. That was just perfect for his post-match interview. If you haven't watched it, you got to watch it. It's absolutely brilliant. But he deserves a serious amount of credit for what he has that Fulham team doing. Like, obviously watched Fulham twice recently against both of our clubs. They play a really, really good brand of football. They're actually surprisingly intricate. Loftus-Cheek, when he wants to be, can run a show and he can create. And he missed a couple of chances on whatever night, on Wednesday night. But I just thought it's worth saying how good Fulham have been the last 6 games. And I kind of my will for them to stay up has gone from total ambivalence and not caring to I kind of want them to stay up now because I think it would be a hell of an achievement. And you see there's other young managers in the league, ex-teammates of Scott Parker, Frank Lampard, who are really struggling with these untold millions and superstars in their team. And to see what Scott Parker has done just over the last half a dozen games, he just deserves a lot of credit. Yeah, fair play to him.
Yeah, he does. I mean, for bringing them back up to the Premier League, which is it's not an easy thing. Like, it's no easy thing to get promoted to the Premier League. So to go down, to bring them back up, then to be having such a shit show, and then identify what's going wrong, and then have such a turnaround over the last 8-10 games. Yeah, 100% agree with you.
Got to drop Cavaliero though. He is a disaster. Oh God, he's awful. He is downright awful, in my opinion. Lookman looks like he's maturing and becoming a really good player. That's why he's in my team.
And before we get on to like fantasy football and talk about our unbelievable managerial decisions, obviously we were just chatting about resting players, not resting players, and I know Dunn mentioned there about starting Salah, starting Mane, Firmino on Sunday. O'Hara, would you do the same, or would you take a different approach?
I think I would do that. I'd start as strong a team as you possibly can. Like Donnacha said, because the confidence is so shot and it's such a big game that like you might as well put them all out and say like you're playing them again. You know, the game last week didn't go as planned, so let's go out there and basically right the wrongs of last week, kind of a thing. And yeah, like that. The only way they're going to get the confidence back is by playing back into confidence. So like if you're switching the team around, it's very chop change again, and you know that's been one of the biggest issues of the season so far is because there's been no consistency. That's over the last couple of years. That's been one of the reasons why Liverpool have been so strong and so consistent. Is just a solid team and consistency over long periods of time. So yeah, I think you should. I wouldn't be surprised now. Like the team he put out for the Burnley game last night with the likes of Oxlade-Chamberlain and Shaqiri in midfield and stuff like that. I wouldn't be surprised if he did one or two like that, because he tends to like doing something like that in the cup. But yeah, I definitely think the likes of the front three, they should all start, especially seeing as two of them didn't even start last night.
Yeah.
One element, one thing that I would like to see happen is I think Trent needs a rest.
I was actually just going to say that, yeah, but I thought it would come up after.
Horribly out of form. He's not making those runs anymore. He's got a wand of a right foot. We all know that, but his confidence is totally shot. And I don't know if Nico Williams is the answer for this game. I'd be putting James Milner. His leadership qualities from right back could be huge. I really liked his chat on social media today.
That's what I was going to say. That actually, yeah.
Yeah. So that would be. I would play a full strength team as close as you can, but Milner starts right back. Or Milner starts. He might start him in the middle of the park, but he has to start.
100%. Yeah, I think Milner should definitely start.
Just on actually, obviously, O'Hara mentioned about Trent Alexander's crossing the 18, 19, 20 crosses. And according to the stats, none of them actually hit a Liverpool player. Maybe one of them hit a Liverpool player. Do you put that down to, not necessarily on last night, but do you put that down to Trent's lack of form, or do you put that down to the three front guys and their movement within the box?
I think it's a combination of both. It's a lot of the time, especially last night, like that. Like Trent hit a huge number of crosses in. Robertson hit a lot in. Shaqiri hit a lot in. I'd say we must have hit at least 40 crosses into the box, with very, very few of them actually getting to Liverpool player or anything coming of those chances. So like Trent in particular, it was like he was just going through the motions. He was just crossing for the sake of crossing so many times, where he's so used to, you know, being in a good position and so crossing then and expecting something to come of it, where it's like he's not really copying on to the fact that nothing is coming of the crosses and trying something different. He's just continuing to do it and expecting something to eventually come off. Like the front three, it's such a inconvenient time that all three of them are entirely out of form. But like that, like, you know, you'd think he had the likes of Salah and Firmino on the bench, maybe to, you know, not have them in from the start and in the kind of hell space that they all are, being like, oh my God, we can't score. But like, you know, so kind of bringing them in fresh, then being like, no, actually, come on, I'm going to influence the game here. But like that shot that he had there against Pope, where he went near post, you could see from the look on his face then afterwards that any chance of him coming in fresh and influencing had gone. He was straight back into, oh my God, when are we ever going to score a goal?
Great save.
It was a brilliant save, and the reaction to kick it away then as well was phenomenal.
Yeah, it's utterly bewildering how Nick Pope isn't England's number one.
It's insane.
It is insane. Like he's just such a good keeper. He's so reliable. I think maybe it's a separate conversation, of course, but I think maybe Pickford's distribution is better than Pope's. But I mean, you know, Pickford has a lot of rickets in him, and Pope just, every time I see him, he's just really impressive as a keeper.
Like 100%. Like I think like there is the argument for Pickford's distribution, but like Pope has been one of the most consistent keepers over the last couple of seasons. You know what I mean? Like that's how it continues to just baffle me how he hasn't gotten into the squad, because it's not like he's a new young keeper coming on the scene this season. Like, he's been around as Burnley's number one. Like, he dislodged Tom Heaton. Like, when Heaton was, because obviously I was very aware of Heaton from fantasy football point of view, because Heaton was my keeper for ages, and then Pope came in out of nowhere, and then he's basically the new Tom Heaton, even better.
I think didn't Heaton do his knee, or he had a significant injury, and Pope was put in and never gave the jersey back.
Literally, he actually made his debut. I was at his Burnley debut. It was against Liverpool.
Oh, I remember that. Yeah.
Arriving at the game, it was like, oh, class, Heaton's injured. This young lad, Nick Pope, is in. Brilliant. This will be great. And it was a 1-1 draw, and he frustrated the heads off.
I remember that game. It was like he had a word with the real Pope.
It was phenomenal. He had a phenomenal. And it was like, who is this young lad? We've never seen him before. And we were expecting, a 2 or 3 goal win, and it's like entirely frustrated into a 1-1 draw against Burnley, which I would have taken last night.
Yeah. Oh, I dream of a 1-1 draw against Burnley.
Just before we get on to chat to you, Dave, just about the United kind of approach to Sunday, just the Tom Heaton story I have for you. I went over to the United Burnley game a couple of seasons ago when it was 0-0 at Old Trafford, and he pulled off.
All you lads going over to see Burnley? Like, what's the story?
They're the only tickets we can get. And it was that game where Tom Heaton pulled off that unbelievable save from Ibrahimovic. I think United had 30 odd shots in the game, and like I usually do, just to try get a couple of autographs afterwards, I wait around, and where I was standing, it was kind of more the side of where all the Burnley players were going towards, and obviously a lot of United lads were going the opposite direction, so I didn't really get many autographs. Next thing, Tom Heaton comes out, and no one was really asking for an autograph or a chat or anything like that, and I just called them over, and I happened to have him in my fantasy football team that week. And I go, Tom, I don't know whether I want to shake your hand and say thanks for 11 points in fantasy football, or you're a dickhead for competing against United. But he took it. It had a good laugh about it. Seemed like a sound chap. Got a picture with him as well, and that's my Tom Heaton story.
That's brilliant. Yeah, very good.
So yeah, Dave, what are we thinking? United's approach on Sunday? Are we doing something similar to Liverpool, putting out a full strength team? Is this an opportunity to rest lads?
Like I'm going to give you my opinion, and the exact opposite's going to happen. No, I mean, listen, he's going to. I reckon. Like I said it about the game the other night. I'm a huge fan of Donny van de Beek, and while Liverpool have such issues in their midfield, a player as competent as him, I think would work well with Cavani and work well with Greenwood and Rashford, whoever manages to start. You were talking earlier on about the jobs that managers have trying to fit players in, and I was having a discussion with somebody the other night about the headache Ole must have. He's got Greenwood, who's a striker, but he hasn't got a right winger, so he has to play out on the right, and he also has Rashford playing out on the right, who's also preferred to play on the left and cut in on his right hand side, and then you've got Edison Cavani, who is taking the spot of the preferred spot of Martial, Rashford, and Greenwood, and he has to try and fit all of those lads in, and that's before you even talk about fucking Pogba or Van de Beek or Fred or Scott. Like it is a minefield. I reckon he'll rest players. I reckon it won't be the same 11 that turned up at Anfield last week. I reckon Bailly will play, and hope to fuck he doesn't fall apart. And yeah, I would love. It would be a perfect game for Van de Beek to come in and give either Pogba or Bruno a rest. Martial needs to be dropped big time. He's just absolutely atrocious. He really just offers so little. he's taken the spot. He's taken Rashford's preferred spot, and even Rashford, who's in not the greatest form at the moment, he's been poor for the last couple of weeks. You'd even have him there on the left to cut in on his right and pop a few shots and maybe set something up for Cavani. But yeah, I feel like Martial needs to go full stop. But he needs to be dropped. He's really not offering anything at the moment. And it's a big game, so you're going to see Fred, you're going to see Scott McTominay more than likely, if not Scott Matic. I'd like to see Tellez get a game. Like guys who'll get minutes against top opposition, but it doesn't have the same weight of a Premier League game.
Yeah. Speaking of Tellez, how good has Shaw's performances been since his arrival, especially at Anfield?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think anybody, including Liverpool fans, were expecting Shaw to be a man of the match type of like nobody ever is, but he was just spot on, and it looked like he really enjoyed playing against Salah, which very few defenders get to say. He was super, like he really was. He put in such a great performance. Like for the fans, like they're putting on this front. Well, I'm not saying putting on a front. What they're saying to the public is we're pushing each other and we're egging each other on and we're trying to make each other better. And that might very well be the case. Of course, they both want to be the first choice left back. That's, goes without saying. But he's really had a kick up the hill, and rightfully so. Like the chap has had bags of fucking talent. He's with us now far too long for us to be seeing the best of him now. But listen, again, like everything else, take it for what it is.
Yeah, I kind of look at, and maybe lads as well might agree, kind of look at Luke Shaw and Anthony Martial and look at those two lads saying they've gotten to where they are based on their ability and nothing got to do with kind of motivation, ambition, kind of passion, drive, willingness to do well. Whereas you look at other players that, yeah, they'll have some sort of ability, but by putting in the hard graft as well, that's where they are so much higher in terms of where they are in their careers. Would you kind of consider Shaw and Martial as, I suppose, as two players that just bags of ability but haven't hit their potential?
I think, I mean, the caveat to, just having talent and not having drive, I think it's all relative. In relative terms, I think they have bags of drive, both of them. But, at the highest level, you need, that additional couple of percent that does make a huge difference. And, every manager talks about the margins. Like Luke Shaw, to be fair to Luke Shaw, I've been very impressed with how he's recovered from that injury that he had in was that against Ajax? Who was that against?
He got PSV.
PSV, yeah.
It was in 2017 though. That's the only thing.
But he's come back and like players break a leg like that. I mean, I remember Jibril Cisse when he came back from his broken leg and he was a merchant and had lost his speed. And whether that was confidence or whether that was an actual physical hangover from that injury, like it seems like Shaw hasn't lost his speed, which is good. I've always rated Martial then on the other side of things, and I always thought that Martial would be actually a good fit for a Liverpool system. That would never happen. That transfer would never happen. But yeah, watching him during the week really reminded me of watching Origi, which is just like it's not going to happen. This isn't going to happen. He's not going to score. He's oh look, he didn't score.
You know what? I'm a fan of Origi. I don't know. Maybe it's because I don't watch him every time he plays.
What? I love him. I love him, but he is the most laid back dude there has ever been. And in a dressing room like that, where Klopp is blood and thunder and fire and brimstone at times, and he's got the jaw going, Origi's chilled out, man.
Origi's living on his own planet. Origi's off in Origi world, and no one else knows what's going on.
But just like I don't think he gets too down on himself, and I don't think he gets too excited. Like he scores that goal, he puts a top corner when we beat Barcelona, and he's sort of like, oh, someone tell me how to celebrate this moment. Yeah. He just sort of turns around and he's like, hey, what do I do? We'll put hands, because he's just, hey man.
Sure, it was like the one he scored against Pickford. He went and grabbed the ball out of the net, like as if we needed to score another goal. Like, what are you doing? You just scored the winner in the 96th minute.
He's an incredibly likable dude. Likable, absolutely. He's a Liverpool legend for the goals he scored.
I have to agree with Dave as well. Just saying, I actually do like him. He always seems to, like, even last night, I think it was after he missed a chance, and he was just there smiling. Like the camera went in on him, and he was just smiling. And I don't even know if he was chatting to anyone or talking, and he was just smiling.
Sometimes he has outrageous ability as well. He scored a goal against Everton when we thumped them 4-0 at Anfield a couple of years ago, chipping the keeper. It was the first touch was from the gods. It was I think Van Dijk pinged a long ball to him and he took it down. He took it down in the save movement, popped it over Pickford, and he just looked amazing. Like he's got real ability, but it seems like he's not arsed to show it.
That's it. I think, if that's the match you're talking about, I think it was the 5-2 there last year.
Yeah, it was 5-2.
He scored twice in that game. Both of them were top class goals.
Yeah.
Like that, the one chipped the keeper and the other one he went around the keeper. Like it's like, how can he just show that type of ability, and then he can't even hit a barn door?
Is there some element of, he knows he's only going to get a chance every now and again? Like he's not breaking that front three, so he knows he's gonna have to rely on sub appearances. And I don't know, I think some there's a lot of players that don't have the mentality to like Solskjaer had the mentality when he was a player that he could sit on the bench and watch a game and watch how it unfolded and watch what he was going to do when he got a bit of game time, and he would arrive and he'd implement whatever he had in his head. There's so many players who just haven't got that head on them, and Origi, like pretty much nearly since the Barcelona, I became a big fan of him in the Barcelona game, and like kind of since then, he's not really like he's never getting a run in the starting 11.
No, he's never going to do it. He's only a squad player, as he said, he's only a squad player, and he knows it. But he seems to have kind of made his peace with it, where like he had the chance to go out, like be sold or go on loan a couple of seasons ago, and he decided, no, I'm actually going to stay. Like brilliant that he did, because he's had so many more of those moments that we now entirely adore him for. But he was never going to break that front three, and he knows that. So like that's why, as Donnacha was saying, like it's probably likely he'll be going. If not this January, he'll definitely be gone in the summer. But he'll have had a brilliant Liverpool career. He's had like an entire a highlights reel to rival most players,
really,
and a ream of medals as well, of all the medals anyone would hope for.
Yeah, I think you look at Origi, and over those 2 seasons where he was coming on and scoring goals, he was pretty much the modern day Solskjaer, coming on, scoring important goals.
Do you know what's funny though?
League finals.
The propensity that he was effective coming off the bench was actually really low. It was any time he did it in a massive game. Yeah. Like I remember there was a Newcastle game up in St James's.
Oh yeah.
And it's a 97-98 point season, and obviously City pipped us. Like that goal, we were desperate. He pops up with a header, 87 minutes or something.
That goal was huge.
Everton won, where Pickford makes a holy show of himself. Barcelona, Champions League final. But he actually never did it let's say he came off the bench last night in just a standard game. He always had to pull out these moments when the stakes were their highest. I think it just it speaks to his character. I think the guy enjoys life. We don't know who he is. We don't know his character. He can't, but he seems to. I think he enjoys life beyond football. Like I think he's the type of guy who, a bit like Matthew Fulmini, who didn't he invest a lot of money and make a lot of a lot of money in some business venture while he was still with Arsenal. But not that Origi's that type. I just think football's not everything to him.
More like Balotelli.
Yeah, I just get the sense that football is not absolutely everything to this guy. That maybe it's family, maybe it's whatever it is. I still like he's been great for us. Like, and best of luck to him, and he'll always have a massive welcome whenever he's at Anfield. But maybe just not in the jersey anymore beyond the summer.
You reckon he'll be doing those hospitality days?
He could be, yeah.
In with a legend in years to come.
I'd say, yeah, there'll be plenty of this current squad who'll be doing that in about 10, 15 years' time, I'd say.
As long as John Flanagan isn't.
This guy was Cafu. What are you talking about?
He failed a medical during the week for some Polish second division team.
Did he? Jeez, I didn't hear that.
Could have been a Premier League team or something beginning with
Why
A.
would you have heard that, Gaz?
Yeah, that was pretty low down my Twitter feed during the week. No, it was in lockdown. That little nugget.
Just before we get on to, I'm going to ask you for predictions for the game on Sunday. I'm going to kind of throw these two questions out to the floor. Do you think at the moment Liverpool are missing their fans, but in a way Man United are it's an advantage not having their fans at Old Trafford?
I think not having the fans is massive. I think that's one of the biggest reasons why we haven't been able to shake the form, because we haven't been the fans haven't been able to be in the stadium and adore them as the champions. Do you know what I mean? So we could have had a bad, as we've said already, we've had 4 or 5 now in a row, but the first loss or the first really poor result in that game coming off the pitch, you would have had a standing ovation from the crowd being like, yes, lads, it doesn't matter. It was poor. We don't care. We love you. You can go again. Like that last night, the crowd would have, I don't think it would have gotten to last night. It would have been maybe 2 or 3 games ago where, they have one bad result and the crowd is like, doesn't matter, lads. You won the league last year. You've brought this back to us. You are unbelievable. So you can just wipe it off and you go again. Where it's just absolutely silent. There's nothing there for them to feed off. Even during the games, like the United match last week, obviously it was looking like it could potentially turn into a 0-0. 60, 70 minutes into that game, the atmosphere in United games is always huge. The crowd just would have been like, no, we're not having this. 70 minutes in, we're like, come on, lads. So the crowd would have stepped it up. Because when it got to that stage, the point I'm making is it got to that stage and the crowd wasn't there. And it was just, they all started going through the motions. It was like, oh crap, we're not going to score. Let's just see it out. Let's shake hands on 70 kind of thing. So I think we're massively missing the fans. As we know, Anfield is one of the most famous stadiums for the fans making a difference. As we've said, the Barcelona game, one of the biggest reasons was the crowd was so up for that game. So I think it's a massive pity that the fans aren't able to be there in the stadium.
One of the reasons, before I ask you, Donnacha, one of the reasons I kind of was going to ask you this question or that question, just in the United game, there was one moment where Salah had the ball pretty much one-on-one with Shaw inside the United box or on the edge of the box. And I just feel like he obviously turned back and passed the ball back to his midfield. But if that had happened in front of fans, no matter whether you're a couple of goals up, probably would have been a bit disappointed that he didn't go at Shaw. And you wonder if those at the moments would have lifted players as well. Not necessarily a ball going out for a corner, but by getting on a player's back might even motivate a player. But that's one of the reasons why I wanted to ask that question, just because of that moment.
Yeah, I think there was potentially that's a great example of that situation. I remember that vividly. It made no sense that why
it was
Salah.
So bizarre. Salah in form would never do that in a million years.
Yeah, and the crowd it definitely affects, I think, players' decisions based on the feedback. Well, it's hard to know because they're I suppose they live their entire careers with this background noise, with groans and cheers and but yeah, as a main point, Liverpool have suffered more than anyone for the lack of fans, and United have benefited more than most. And that's that's fine. That's just what it is. That's not a whinge at all. Obviously there are much more important things in football going on right now. But you know, when the lockdown first happened, and then it became apparent that this was going to be a fixture, certainly in the medium term, like I don't think you would have found many Liverpool fans thinking this makes no difference to us. And it's totally been the case. Like the home form has still been really high. I think we're still second in the league, or maybe we dropped to third now in the league with the home form. But yeah, it's been really tragic as well that these guys deserve, like they ended 30 years of hurt, and they deserve just to be lauded for it, really vociferously by 58,000 or 54,000 Scousers, and they can't, and it's a real shame. And you know, to have a parade now after the fact is kind of redundant. It would just be a source of ridicule. So yeah, it's a massive shame.
Yeah. Dave, do you think no fans has benefited Solskjaer's approach to games at Old Trafford?
Absolutely. I respectfully, I'll disagree with Donnacha and that. Okay, maybe on at Anfield at the weekend, yes, it's benefited them, but you know, not having the Anfield crowd on our backs, yeah, quite possibly. But listen, our home form has gone off a fucking cliff, and there's there's been so many games where you felt a packed Old Trafford. We would have gotten more wins, more last minute goals, a lot more, you know, players would have been jumped on more. You know, there would. You know, they might be able to tune it out, but they also get an adrenaline rush when an Anfield crowd is behind them, or an Old Trafford crowd is behind them, or whatever, you know, and vice versa. So like our away form has us where we are, so we're literally getting points from other players, other team stadiums.
Dave, do you think that? I'm not observing it as keenly as obviously United fans, but it seemed to me whenever I saw Old Trafford with a full stadium, there's a lot of tension. There was a lot of tension in the crowd, and you know, unhappiness in the crowd, and like nowhere near to the level of the Emirates, which has been a toxic place for like maybe 5-6 years now. But what I was getting at is, United seem to play in front of a crowd at Old Trafford with the real burden of expectation, and the murmurings would start in half an hour if you can see the goal. And I feel from that standpoint, maybe it's allowed. It's hard to know Fernandes because he's pretty much not played at a full Old Trafford yet, essentially.
Sure, no,
you're shackled, but they feel, you know, they feel like they can present their skills without for fear of making a mistake and hearing the discontent in the crowd.
Yeah, very true. The only thing is, like, you kind of shift it then, because when there was a full Old Trafford crowd, the team weren't where they are now in terms of their performances and you know how they're coming up with the goods. You know, if Old Trafford was packed, you know, when we had the shite hammered out of us by Spurs, yeah, maybe it would have just been as much of a hellish place for us as anybody else. But I don't know. Listen, I guess it's stuff you can't quite measure. It'll be interesting, like when fans are able to get into the stadium again, and United are maybe a couple of months closer and still within a title race. Could have a completely different vibe to it altogether, you know. But no, there's certain stadiums in the Premier League that are just the fans make such a huge difference, and probably no bigger stadium than Anfield to miss that one's gone.
I'd say shout out to Selhurst Park as well would be another one for me. Palace fans,
yes.
Palace fans are great, and they carry the team a long way.
Absolutely,
sure. But like Bramall Lane is another one. Like I reckon Sheffield have been hugely affected. They've had so much go on. Like they, you know, I really feel for them. I really do.
They're probably still whinging about Tevez.
Probably.
Before we wrap this part of the pod up about Liverpool and United on Sunday, O'Hara, what's your score prediction for the weekend?
I'm hoping for a Liverpool win, obviously. like as we were saying, like it's such a disappointing, it's such a demoralising run of form. But look, it's going to have to turn at some point. And realistically, what better way than to put in a performance against United in the cup? Like, I think it'll be relatively similar to last week. But I still think if they can sort out, like with the likes of Milner and stuff like that, if they can sort out, lifting the morale a bit, I think we could get a win. So I'm gonna say 2-1 to Liverpool.
David?
I just had to double check where this game was. It's at Old Trafford. Very rarely you get two games where you get two kind of stalemates. And while we were chatting there, I had a quick Google to see if anything had been said by Solskjaer, and he has said he's going to make changes. He's going to rotate. So I don't expect it to be a 0-0 draw. Do you know what? I'm actually going to go with the same prediction I made last weekend. I think that I got horribly wrong, but I think it'll be 2-1 United.
2-1 United. Donnacha?
I think Klopp is going to make Liverpool play angry football. I think hurting, and I think the leaders in the dressing room are going to come to the fore, and for that reason, I think United are going to have more of the ball simply because it's in Old Trafford. Even though without a crowd, I think the not alien surroundings, but it does make still a difference. And I'm hoping because of that, United might get a little bit of more confidence to play with the ball. And I think Liverpool might nick a 1-0 on a counter-attack goal, maybe. To have, having watched last week, like I think we were the better side for most of the game, but I think the game will be a little bit different this week. I don't expect anything. Like can't even expect a goal. It's been 5 hours of watching that bloody team without a goal. But I'm going to go really tight game. Liverpool on a counter attack 1-0, and we'll say Mane because I love him.
I suppose I don't know. I just think with the Man United changes that are going to happen, I think the fact that Liverpool are going to be playing their front three, and I do have a little bit of a feeling that they're going to score. FA Cup games go to extra time, do they? And then penalties.
This season there's no replays, there's no room in the schedule. Yeah,
because kind of in my head before I came on here, I was thinking of a 2-2 draw. I just kind of have a feeling that it's going to be completely different. Mind you, I did think I was a 3-2 or 2-1 last week, completely wrong as well. But I kind of have a feeling that this is going to be the complete opposite of last Sunday, where it'll be a lot more end-to-end. Liverpool seeing this as an opportunity to bounce back, seeing as an opportunity for the front three to score, because I don't think they have a great record against United, the front three lads in their Liverpool days. So I can see it being 2-2, going to extra time, and I'm going to go United win on pens.
It's very specific, guys.
Did a lot of thinking beforehand.
What minutes are the goals going to be?
Don't.
84th, 86th, 88th, and 90th. So we'll get on to the fancy football side of things. And I think we all have to congratulate O'Hara on an unbelievable week.
It's a freak. It's an article.
And the mad thing about it is he still has 3 players to play.
He's an absolute freak. That is fun going.
O'Hara, do you want to talk us through your thinking? Was it fluke? Was it planning? Was it managerial genius?
Thanks, Manny. Yeah, I think it's a combination of them all, to be honest. Because like that, like I'm sure all of us, like I'd always take fantasy football quite seriously. So I'm not just, chopping and changing, making loads of just bizarre changes. There's usually good thinking behind the decisions. But just a lot of this season, just so much of it has entirely gone the wrong way for me. Like that, like we had said before, like I thought I had my team set up perfectly for the start of the season and was agonizing over Mane or Salah and went with Mane, and then Salah scores a hat-trick. Do you know what I mean? So it was always little things like that it was just like, oh, come on. Like, how is this even happening? So yeah, it was just over the last couple of weeks, I seem to have started to get a few decisions right. So yeah, going into last week, I had done the free hit the previous week, and like had done fine. I think I'd gotten about average. So I had actually been planning, like kind of without looking at the team too in depth. I had been planning on doing the wild card last week. But then looking at the team, I was like, actually, a lot of these have quite nice double game week fixtures. Obviously, there was the worry with the likes of the Aston Villa players, because I have two, Grealish and Martinez. That was like, oh, like if Villa get ruled out, the team is entirely screwed, really. Do you know what I mean? And like that, like I've had your man Pereira from West Brom. I think I've had him since the start of the season. Like I said to you before, I'd normally have a look at like the top 2 or 3 players who played in the Championship who've come up to the league. And like he was, I think, West Brom's best player last season in terms of goals and assists. So that's why I got him in ages ago. But I think he's had one good week and then has done nothing for the rest of the season. So I was considering getting him out. Had I done the wild card, he was gone. You know what I mean? But it was like, actually, do you know what? Like say, I wanted to get in De Bruyne because I didn't have De Bruyne, and I wanted to get in 1 or 2 other players. And so the whole thing was, it was like, well, actually, Pereira seems to be playing a bit better since Allardyce came in. West Brom have a nice looking double game week, so why not just stick him in, stay with him for another week or 2? And sure, that was that was one of the best decisions I've made.
Dave, are you going to be ruthless?
I might have to be, Donnacha, if I'm going to have to try and continue this upward trajectory.
Yeah, I think there's a bit of ruthlessness in you. I reckon if Pereira's just had this anomalous couple of games, obviously with Allardyce in, they're getting a bit of a new manager bump with extra gravy sauce. But he's the guy who makes them tick by all accounts. But yeah, I wouldn't necessarily be keeping him, in my opinion. I don't know.
I don't think I will. I'll probably, I'll have a look over it, like see if they've any decent fixtures over the next maybe 2 game weeks. I haven't actually looked at him in particular, but yeah, like that, I just because he's had a good double game week, like as well, it can flatter to deceive a little bit as well. Like the 2 goals in the first game were 2 penalties. You know what I mean? So
yeah,
like it's not like West Brom have a marauding front 3 that they're going to be getting penalties left, right, and centre. Like
it's such a crucial part of fantasy this season, though. I mean, you need to know who everyone's penalty taker is, and you need to be making decisions based on that.
Oh yeah, 100%.
If you're not, forget about it. Like you're going to be in the top 6 million, and that's the case.
Harry, I want to make 2 points. First, fair play to you for going with the Villa lads, because no one had any idea. It was pretty much a gamble, wasn't it? Going with Villa.
Pretty much, like,
we didn't know, there was no news on who was going to be out with COVID.
There wasn't. No, I left it up to, like you said, you had set an alarm to make sure you didn't miss the deadline. Like that, I did as well. I made sure I hadn't made the decisions until that morning. And yeah, like that, it was like, basically like that, I had De Bruyne as the captain. So like that was his kind of double game week. And yeah, it was hoping that it went through, because if it went through, they're basically 2 of Villa's best, but their best players and also their best points getters fantasy wise. So it was like, if they do go ahead, I have a very good chance of getting good returns from them. Yeah. Which actually, obviously they're 2 of the 3 players I have playing tomorrow. But like, it was brilliant. And pretty much every other player I have got brilliant returns. So actually, it would have been nearly fine if the Villa players didn't play, because both of them have only gotten me 3 points so far.
Yeah. Second point I was going to make was, I'm just literally having a look at your team here. You don't have any Liverpool players in it.
Yeah. Which saddens me. But look, as Donnacha said, you have to be ruthless in fantasy football. You can't be emotional. And for years, that was always my issue. I'd be getting in, straight away. I'd always have 3 Liverpool players. I'd always have, 2 or 3 new signings that I think will be good for their teams, where, you really can't, you have to be ruthless in it. So look, as we've as we've agonised over, like Liverpool are in a poor run form. So like, while Salah was one of the most owned players a month ago, and like Liverpool were scoring 7 against Crystal Palace. Yeah, I'm pretty sure I had 2 or 3 Liverpool players at that point. But like, what would you be doing having them unless for a clean sheet? But sure, we don't even seem to be able to keep that against Burnley. So,
Dave, might go on to your team and your week. You played your wild card, I think. Yeah, you played your wild card.
Yeah. Do you know what? I'm not. I'm happy enough. I came out with 81, and I've got 3 players playing tomorrow. I big shout out to Donnacha. I chucked Wan-Bissaka for Justin from Leicester, and I think he got me 2 points shy of what Bruno Fernandes got me. So Justin is staying in there for a while.
Oh, he's a great shout. Yeah, I've had him for a few weeks. I've had him for a good while, actually. Yeah, he's a great shout.
He's been in my team every week.
So, I have to take Matt. I don't know why. Did you ever make a decision on picking a player and you don't really fucking know why? I think I picked up Matt Doherty.
No, I've never done that ever.
And which is why you're on 131 this week, and while I'm still 36.
Well, Harry, are you going to correct him on that? 133.
I'm on 133 currently.
Sorry, I beg your pardon.
So far. Yeah. And I think the best I've ever gotten is maybe 108 or something like that.
Well, yeah, I turfed Doherty out, and I've had Walker Peters hanging around as well. And do you know what? That's another one that, again, why I'm 36th, because it's an emotional thing rather than like when I watch that lad play, I always think he's a solid defender. Doesn't mean he's going to get you points, but yeah. So I've had to chuck him out. I've got Robertson for some fucking reason.
He's top scoring defender so far in the game.
But yeah, so I've got Martinez, Grealish, and
Wilson. I think you have the same
Watkins.
three as I did, yeah.
Sorry?
Watkins.
Oh, Watkins. Sorry, I thought you had Wilson. He's the other lad I have.
Yeah, no, Ollie Watkins.
He's a great shout, by the way, because he's so cheap as well, and he's a proper good look. Like, he's a really proper striker.
Yeah, do you know what?
Proper sexy footballer.
That's what I was going to say. He's a proper good looking footballer.
I think I was rejigging around, and I think I was trying to fit Grealish in, and I went, do you know what? If I sacrifice, I got rid of Calvin Noon, and I said, okay, do you know what? If I fit Grealish and Watkins in, then I was like, yeah, do you know what? We'll see how that serves me. So yeah, do you know what? It was kind of one of those things. I only copped it last night that I still had 3 players to play. I was like, yeah, all right, I'll take it.
Nice.
Just speaking of Dave, just giving a bit of credit to Donnacha there with his selection on Justin, and we were obviously chatting last week, and Donnacha mentioned Harvey Barnes as a good shout. I went with Harvey Barnes, trimming the team. I think he got 15 points.
15. He was decent.
So
yeah, he was one of the lads I got in as well.
A solid shout.
Power of the pod, lads. It's the power of the pod.
But I have to say, his assist for the Ndidi goal was absolutely scandalous, wasn't it?
This is it. I actually, because that night I was only keeping an eye on live score, and I saw that he had gotten the assist, and I was like, happy days. And then I saw the match of the day, and I was like, unbelievable.
You gotta love it.
Well, you know, it's the unpredictability of it. Aside from Ollie Watkins, my worst performing outfield player is Son. Like, what the fuck is that?
It's insane. Yeah.
Well, there you go. Like, you know, Salah had a terrible week. Vardy, my God. Jamie Vardy. And then just add insult, he gets injured. And he's, well, not that he gets injured, but he's decided it's time to go under the knife. He's got an ongoing hip problem, which maybe just...
he's having a hernia.
Yeah, which maybe explains why he hasn't been in great form. Sorry, I've kind of just hijacked the conversation here, but I just... Vardy, I thought I had really high hopes for Vardy. You know, he played 2 games, he had 4 points, and now he's injured. So now I've got to kick him out again.
Were you? I think, Donnacha, you had De Bruyne as captain, didn't you?
I did.
I had captain as well, and I'm not going to lie, very disappointed by his return. The fact he came off in the 58th, 59th minute.
It was sick.
Like you have a week there where obviously your captain was going to play twice, no matter what you did. Like I played my wild card because I just needed a good week for my mental health. I needed a good week in the fantasy football. So I engineered it to have 9 players playing twice, and it went pretty well. Like I got 100 points. Guys who came in who did really well for me. Kufal, excellent.
He's brilliant.
Harvey Barnes, obviously. I kept Ademola Lookman, and he paid me off handsomely with that goal against United. Kane did quite well too. He always does. And then the other guy I brought in was Nick Pope, who had 13 points between the 2 games, which was great. So for the next week, I've basically got no choice. I've got 2 red flags in my team. Vardy is 1, De Bruyne is another. And in the interest of like the necessity to get a City defender in, I've taken Strike from Leeds out and put Diaz in.
Good shout.
Probably a decent shout.
I'll give you something I've noticed, right, over the last maybe month or so, just this side of the Christmas period. Remember the start of the season, it was just a goal fest. Clean sheets were gold dust. There was no.
You couldn't buy a clean sheet.
There was no point in having top class. There was no point in having like Trent or Robertson or the City guys or well, Zuma scored a couple of goals. But in terms of clean sheets, I've noticed it is entirely flipped.
Yeah,
I think it's a product of just the exhaustive nature of this season for a lot of teams.
Definitely is. Yeah.
If you look at the guys who are top scoring, like the guy who top scored this week, he's got Diaz and Stones, who between them had 45 points.
Yeah.
Kufal, Maguire for clean sheets, De Gea with 10 points. So it feels to me like whereas people were front loading their teams early on in the season for success, it's now time to maybe pull back. And if you have a cheap and cheerful defense, maybe you want to start looking at that.
Definitely, because that's what ended up working for me this week. Like that, like at the start of the season, like 100%, you were only having 3 at the back, and even then, you were struggling to find anyone who was going to be getting you points because no one seemed to be able to keep a clean sheet to save their life. Where now, like that double game week, just that we're obviously we've 1 more game to go. I went 4 at the back. I'm like, that's all. I really like when that works out because, like saying in seasons past, that's what I had sometimes tried to do because, you know, most people will have a lot of the same attackers and midfielders, but if you can manage to get a good balance of back 4 and a keeper, that, you know, you're going to get 3 or 4 clean sheets out of the 4 or 5 of them. Like that's that's another 20-25 points on top of all your attacking returns.
And the beauty of it is the onus isn't actually on the individual. You just sneak guys in there who don't necessarily have to do anything in the match to pick up these sort of cheap points. Obviously, the odd time you'll get like Stones scoring 2 goals during the week and whatever. But it's just these cheap, they just prop up. They allow your team. They allow you to get a 70-point week every week by guaranteeing you 20, 25.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, and I love the way like we were just talking about some players that got us decent points this week, like Barnes, Kufal, 1 or 2 others, and O'Hara there. Yeah, I had him. Yeah, I had him. Yeah.
I have to start claiming it, like, because it hasn't worked for me for so long this season. So, like, at last, I finally copped onto the players to have. You know?
I'm looking at the guy who has 195 this week, right? So he's used his triple captain. Yeah. Any guesses? You're not getting it.
John Stones.
Nope.
Oh.
Miguel Antonio, triple captain for 36 points. So he also has Kufal and Souček in his team, so he's definitely a hammer. He plays his bench boost, and on his bench he had Alisson for 13, Justin for 14, Bamford dud for 2, but Harry Kane got 9. Maddison in the team for 17 as well. John Stones 27. 195.
So he didn't actually use his triple captain then, did he? Did he use his bench boost?
He used the bench boost.
Oh, sorry, Antonio.
Antonio just got, that's just a double of the 15 that he got.
Yeah, you're right. I've totally messed. Yeah, sorry, because he had 9 points twice, scoring.
I was like, he must have had a GTA cheat or something going on.
Yeah. Using them all in the 1 week.
What do you mean you don't play all your chips every week? I do that.
You'd always get lads who do that and try and do that in the first week just to say, "Oh, well, I love fantasy football."
Yeah.
But isn't it one of life's great achievements to log on to fantasy football, look up in that top right hand corner, and be like, "Wow, I'm number one in all of fantasy football." even if it's after, I don't know, 2 or 3 games that weekend.
Oh, but you see that every week. If there's a game, if there's on any given game week, after the first day of games, if you look at top team this week, you go into it and it's only players who played on the first night, triple captain and the best player, and they've taken like a minus 28 point hit just to get all those players in.
Whatever about getting the weekly win. I mean, we need to find out the answer to this question. Who is there more of in the world? Guys who've led fantasy football or guys who've climbed Mount Everest? I don't know. The longest fantasy going? Maybe not that long. And I mean, once you're at the top, you're probably going to stay around the top, and it's probably a lot of swapping around. But 30, you can have 38 a year, so it's a bigger honor than climbing Everest.
I think so. I would rather have that honor.
Yeah, I think so too. I'd certainly. I'm beside
that question is just going to stick with me now for a while.
There's definitely been more people up Everest than have led fantasy football globally.
You better believe it.
There definitely is.
But imagine,
and it costs you about 40 grand to do it.
Yeah.
Imagine.
And the Wi-Fi's crap.
Imagine achieving both of them, and then writing a fucking book about it. I'd read it. The
big question is, which achievement do you go first? Like, I mean, which is the bigger achievement? Because that's debatable. I don't know how many podcasts there are about climbing Everest, but there's a fuckload about trying to get top of fantasy football.
There is,
yeah. Speaking of Everest, Dave O'Hara.
It's going to be a weird link up.
This is a great segment.
Dave O'Hara is top of our Everest this month in terms of January, but just having a look here, you are 5 points clear of Connor Keane. So obviously I think there's 2 more game weeks to go. So for anyone who's obviously listening doesn't really know how our league works, we give out monthly prizes. Yes, our league is better than yours. But yeah, we give out monthly prizes, and Dave O'Hara is currently top with 248. Let me have a quick look and see. Actually, I'm 222, so I'm not too far behind.
Yeah, you're in the mix.
Yeah,
because I've never won one of the monthly ones, I totally forgot about it. So happy days. I'm going all out to try and win this one. So,
but isn't that the good thing about this league, is that we'll say, because I think we decided, was it December and May, there's 30 quid as opposed to the normal 20 quid.
Oh yeah.
You could come out, you could be bottom of the table in May or April going into May, win the Manager of the Month award from May, and come out with a profit and been sitting bottom in a league with 3 lads.
But sure, even this week, lads, like I nearly got a nosebleed, like flying up after we were talking last week, and like I think I was nearly the highest, and I was in 28th. Like I've gone all the way up to 15th. Like I don't think I've ever been up this high in the league this season, anyway.
You did.
I'm not sure Everest is for you, Dave. If the dizzying heights of 15.
Yeah, I'm acclimatizing to the air pressure up here.
We'll take care of now. Tell you what, you can foot the bill for us to do.
Sugarloaf for
You can donate all your fancy winnings. You can go donate it to our expedition.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah, having a look here, Donnacha, you are
miles away.
186 in 20.
Yeah, guys, I don't need to know.
Dave, well, let's put it this way: Donnacha and Dave, you're battling out for get above 200 points. Yeah. But mind you, I can't say anything. This is probably the best month I've had. I used my free hit the week before last, and then I was used the wild card this week. And and I think I had 91, but I have a sub to come off the bench, but only with 2 points, so whatever, 93 this week. Again, kind of, I suppose, saying disappointed with the return from Vardy, taking a chance with him, taking a chance, obviously, captain De Bruyne. Barnes did a good job for me. Diaz brought him into the team. Actually, brought him in the free hit, kept him in, thinking that obviously City would probably get at least one clean sheet, and obviously
the gig is up with him. I think definitely late to the party and getting him in now, and he's not going to move for the rest of the season unless he's injured.
Yeah, But another thing is, like, fair play to anyone, and I know there was a few lads. O'Hara, did you bring Stones in?
No, and I was really wanted to. I was sickened when I saw he scored twice, because like that, I had thought of doubling up on the defense, having Diaz and Stones, but I had to get in De Bruyne. He was more pressing for me, so I was sickened I didn't get him in the end.
That's what we were talking. We were talking about getting City players into your team last week, and it's just so.
That's it. So
it's such a treacherous thing to do.
Not for the back four. It seems like that back four is kind of settled now. What's the crack with Laporte? Is he just out of favour?
He just seems to be. Yeah, it just seems to be a case of Diaz and Stones are
wild.
Yeah, Laporte can't dislodge the two of them at the moment, which is crazy.
Yeah,
and he was screaming out for Laporte last season.
Yeah.
To be honest, I did think with the double game week for City that Laporte would play in at least one of the games, but I think the fact that Stones obviously banged in 2 goals in the first game, I think you couldn't really drop him.
I think Pep is going to just lean on the momentum that City have now. I mean,
of course,
if he has his ideas about chopping and changing, you don't do that when you've won 8 on the bounce in all competitions. You just next game. It'd be interesting to see how they fare without De Bruyne now for a while. The guy. So every week I'm going to try and just name a sleeper in fantasy in any position who I think is worth buying. Ilkay Gundogan is £5.5 million.
Yeah,
taking penalties now. Gonna play every week. £5.5 million, and he is just sneaky. He is a real sneaky guy in terms of goals and assists. His numbers belie
smash and finish from him last week.
Yeah. His numbers totally belie his reputation as a player. You think he's like one of these like Nigel de Jong kind of destroyers, but he's a really good footballer.
Yeah, I've my eye on him now. I think he would have been a good one to get in a couple of weeks ago before you start copping onto it. Yeah. But even now, like $5.5 million getting him in, and he's, like we were saying before, it's so hard to choose because they chop and change so much. But like, he seems to be the most settled in terms of Pep seems to more often than not pick him.
But Rodri played, but Rodri there's no point. Rodri might as well be £1.5 million because he's never going to do anything.
Yeah, exactly.
Whereas Gundogan is now playing ahead of him, and even though you might think that he's defensively minded, he's actually not.
Yeah.
And I was just going to try have a quick look and see did anyone in our league actually have Gundogan in the team. I think one lad did.
You know, I think I still have this stigma in my head about how injury prone he is.
Yeah.
Like when he arrived from Dortmund, like he was like Hargreaves Part 2. You know, he couldn't get any sort of a run without getting some sort of a knee injury. So I don't know, it just hovers in the back of my mind.
Yeah, and it was one of those bizarre ones where, remember then, like he had a few niggly injuries, and then he got a really bad one where he was out for like nearly a year, and like the following match then, all the players wore jerseys with Gundogan on it.
As if he died.
Like he was after dying or something. Like, it was bizarre.
I know, Donnacha, it's ridiculous. It was just an injury, you know.
When Depay when he scored for Holland and he's Leon, the message from Van Dijk's do you know what, man? You're good mates. Send him a text message. Give him a phone call. Probably bored. Got an ACL injury. Just don't get this.
Thinking of you.
Oh, it's so self-serving. It's like, happy birthday to my bestie, and you tag them on 6 photos on Instagram because you want attention. It's like, oh look, you have a friend. Sorry. I'm like the Japanese podcast, aren't I? I'm like the grumpy fuck. It stinks. Yes, Mr. Sherman, everything stinks.
We should have the grump corner every week or something like that.
Yeah.
No matter no matter what guest is on, or no matter what lad from the group's on, Donnacha just comes on for 2 minutes, throws in something, and then gets out.
We'll call it and another thing.
But other than that, I'm very satisfied and content with life in general. So it's all good, you know.
Good to hear. When it comes to making decisions, then obviously, Donnacha, you were saying you had Vardy, De Bruyne, same as myself. Are you looking to get the two of them out then straight away?
No, I did something stupid because I just felt so annoyed at myself that I missed the Diaz train, in that I've already made 2 transfers and there's a week to go before the next week. So I've kicked out strike, as I mentioned, I kicked out Vardy, and now I'm going to sit on the FA Cup this week, and I've got to basically get a replacement for De Bruyne. I really, really don't want to put Fernandes in. Right now, the guy I'm thinking of is Jack Grealish, and the striker that I brought in is Ollie Watkins as well. Villa are going to be catching up and playing a lot of games, and they've got not a bad run, and they're a bloody good side too. So
I think that's what we're all waiting for at the moment, is to see the double game weeks again for Villa. City are obviously, because they have a game in hand, they'll be playing a double game week possibly as well. So again, kind of my thinking at the moment is, will I try to get some of the Villa lads in now over the next couple of weeks, because there's going to be a double game week there. Same with maybe try get someone else in for De Bruyne from City. I don't know if that's the, obviously I think Bodie actually have a couple of Villa lads, the 2 Daves already. So are you planning on keeping them in, or are you planning on a few more rotations?
I'm definitely planning on keeping the couple of Villa lads I have. Like that. Like there's a good few game weeks coming up in quick succession now over the next couple of weeks, and Villa have one of the nicest runs over that period. So yeah, like I'm gonna stick with Martinez and Grealish, and like depending on how the weeks go, like Watkins is a great shout as well. I think he's only about 6.1 at the moment, where like for low priced strikers, that's one of the best shouts you can have, in terms of it's a lot cheaper than most lads you'll have. So I think Villa is definitely, that's a great shout to be sticking with them, and that's definitely what I'm planning on doing.
Yeah, same here. I mean, I think you'd be mental to get rid of Martinez at this point, and Grealish is just, it's just quality. He's just so dangerous, you know. And they're playing Newcastle. Newcastle are in shocking form. The thing is with Martinez and Grealish, they're solid, whereas Watkins is just a bonus, you know. So
yeah, exactly.
I'll be sticking.
Guys, question for the floor. I was thinking this the other day. Is it Martinez or Martinez? Isn't it? Because I'm thinking, because he's Argentinian, isn't he?
I'll just call him Emmy.
Yeah.
You need to get you need a hobby, Gaz. I swear to God. Like,
This is the hobby.
This is the hobby then.
Google that shit. Right?
I'm not sure. I would normally have gone Martinez, but a lot of people seem to call him Martinez, so I'm not really sure. I would say, if you're being specific, I'd say it probably is Martinez.
Here's a bigger question. How did that guy stay at Arsenal for a decade and play 1 Premier League game?
That was
crazy. That's crazy.
That makes no sense.
Yeah.
I mean,
considering the nightmare that they have had with goalkeepers since.
Yeah, and even the signing they've made literally today. Remember we were saying earlier, like they're after getting Matt Ryan on loan from Brighton. Like
he's an Arsenal fanboy. The fanboy's a disrespectful kind of term. He's an Arsenal fan. So I don't know. Like he probably just wanted to wear the trackies for 6 months, because I can't imagine he's gonna take Leno's spot anytime soon. It's a really curious transfer.
I was really surprised by it. I couldn't believe it when I saw it.
Yeah.
First of all, I didn't even realize he was dropped at the time until it was kind of back-to-back games that
I had him in my team at the start. Him and Alex McCarthy were my 2 rotating keepers, and then he got dropped, and I just never swapped him out.
Yeah, he was a great shout for a lot of the early parts of the season. It was mad that he got dropped, and it was so emphatically dropped. It wasn't just, okay, we're going to drop you for a game or two. It was just like, you're not playing for us anymore. That's game over.
Yeah.
Is there obviously something going on behind the scenes? Is there? Or
Like nothing has come out, but
Dave.
it does seem like that.
Yeah.
We don't want to be starting rumors on the internet, lads. You know, it's only the second pod. We don't want to get like any litigation letters.
Officially the first one done.
Sure.
A few trial runs beforehand. Yeah, just before I suppose we wrap it up. We always plan to try fill in a lot more than we do. We don't actually get to it. Kind of, I don't know what. Did you guys have Kane and Son in your teams before you did your wild cards? Because obviously they were only playing once in the game week, or did you keep them in, or are you planning to try bring them back in? Because my side of things, I was looking to bring them straight back in pretty much, and it's kind of worked out well with Vardy obviously out injured, De Bruyne out injured, and you're saving a bit of cash as well.
Yeah,
I left Son in and didn't leave. Something bad would have to happen to Son for me to take him out, to be honest.
Yeah, I had both of them coming into this week, and it was just because it was such a big double game week in terms of there were so many teams with 2 games that he was one of the ones. Son, I had Son and Kane, and I decided I was going to get rid of one of them just to try and maximise the amount of players I had with double game weeks. So obviously I was delighted that I kept Kane rather than Son. But yeah, straight away, like Son is someone that I'd be looking to get back in quite soon, because the two of them have been in phenomenal form this season. And I think they have a decent enough run coming up. So yeah, definitely I'll be looking to get Son back in relatively soon, I'd say.
Yeah, I Son out, and Kane is going absolutely nowhere for me for the rest of the season. Like if you look, the differences that Fantasy have made this year, to put a lot of attackers back into the midfield, which means like if you look at the strikers, there's actually like look at the top most expensive strikers, right? Kane, yes. Aguero got coronavirus now, but hasn't featured this season. Vardy injured. Firmino can't score. Werner can't score. Jesus can't score. Martial can't score. Ings quality. Lacazette, Jimenez, Cavani. Like there's no one in there that's down to 8 million quid. So there's a lot of guys below that. You've got Bamford, you got Wilson, you got Antonio, you've got even Neil Maupay at Brighton. So I'm happy that Kane is going to be my expensive striker from now to the end of the season. Unless he's injured, he's going nowhere. And we'll see about Son. Son might come back in. I'm not really sure yet. Love him as a player. Great player.
Yeah.
Great player, Bill.
Just before we finish up, I'm going to ask you quickly, who's been your fantasy football signing of the season? Might start with David Dent.
Don't start. Do you know what?
By the way,
reliable Tielemans. Yeah, I love him. Like I haven't budged him, but he's just so reliable.
Yeah, have you had him in since the start, or thereabouts?
Yeah, thereabouts. I'm pretty sure I had him from the very beginning, but if not, pretty soon afterwards. Like I've shifted keepers, I've shifted fullbacks, I've whipped out United players. I went with there was just stupid signings that were getting me nothing, just from not playing. Like Van de Beek is a perfect example. I wanted him to succeed so well, and it's just been a waste of time.
I had an obsession. I've had an obsession with putting Naby Keita in my fantasy football team in the past.
It's that kind of thing, It's that kind of thing.
So bad. His little icon starts disappearing when you select him now. He's kind of like transparent.
But making kind of some of the more clever moves and taking some tips off you lads has made all the difference. But so far, Tielemans has been excellent.
Yeah. O'Hara?
Obviously, this week aside, because I could make arguments for most of the players that I have currently, but like your man Pereira, he had 24 points from this double game week. But as I said, he's done next to nothing for the whole season. So I think there's been one or two, like I've had Justin and Callum Wilson since the very start. Both, like I've always liked Wilson when he was with Bournemouth. I've always kind of had a soft spot for Bournemouth, so I've always kind of had a good eye on him. So I thought he wouldn't need a betting in period at Newcastle. And then I went with Justin because I think he had played a few of their preseason games because Pereira was injured, and he was only I can't remember exactly the price, but he was very cheap starting off. And
I think he was 4 mil. I think
that's what I was going to say, but I wasn't 100% sure. I think he was 4 starting off, which was ideal.
I think.
So I think the two of those, in terms of ones from the very start of the season and throughout the season, I think I can't even remember who I had in goals, but I had someone. I'd normally, like we had said before, I'd normally have the keepers well set up in, like Donnacha was saying, like maybe rotating it between McCarthy and Matt Ryan or something like that. I'd always try and find a good pair that you can rotate. I actually can't even remember who I had, but whoever I had was doing absolutely nothing for me. So whenever I eventually changed to Martinez, that's been a great signing then for me then as well.
Brilliant.
Yeah, my two, James Justin from the start, and I had Callum Wilson up until 2 weeks ago. But for me, James Justin's probably been the best pick.
Excellent. Short and sweet.
What would you go for, Gary? What was yours?
I suppose just looking back here, I had Son on the first week of the season, and then I rotated. Obviously, the next game week, I think it was the Southampton game where he scored 4 goals. Pretty sure Dave had him as captain as well that week. So I then obviously brought Son back in the week after. I think he came off at half time, took him out, he came back in the week after, scored another 2, then I put him back in. So I can't really take credit for Son being a good sign because he didn't really get me that many points at the start. Just looking here, like the only reliable signing, and it's been a signing since day one, is Fernandes in terms of the return. Like he gets me pretty much double digits every week, every second week. Apart from that, I've just been so inconsistent, hence why I'm 33rd in the league and probably shouldn't be offering advice.
What a good number for an Irishman on an internationally acclaimed podcast.
So yeah, don't listen to any advice I give unless I pip O'Hara to manager of the month this month.
Exactly.
That's my only hope at the moment. Anyways, lads, thanks so much for making the Fantasy Kickabout podcast and the first official podcast an enjoyable one. Good chats, good banter, and like I said, we could happily sit here for, like we did in the trial runs, for 3-4 hours. We could easily do that every week, but we look forward to having you back on and chatting more fancy football. Best of luck with the weekend and enjoy the game, lads.
Thanks, man.
Take care, lads. All the best.
Peace.